Do you recall this moment? A moment when life was a little less complicated, when the Browns had appeared as a single united family. They referred to it as their mission statement, a scribbled promise in marker on a poster board, intended to steer their plural home. All the words like love, unity, and trust were consciously selected, put center stage. But they were only words on a sign, a television prop, a hugging sweet illusion to make the public and perhaps themselves believe the Browns behaved like a single functioning unit. Did they? For years, that poster just sat around, nothing but a dust-gathering relic of a long-forgotten life. But our insider sources tell us, in the chill, antiseptic halls of justice, far from the eyes of TLC's cameras, that relic reappeared. And this time, it isn't being fondly remembered. It is being used as a weapon. In-court attorneys for the wives contended that those weren't mere hollow words. They were an agreement. An agreement Kody and Robyn Brown had deliberately, methodically, and brutally violated. Welcome back to Reality Recap, your source for the deepest dives and most exclusive breakdowns of the Brown family saga. What you are about to hear is compiled from insider accounts, legal analysis, and family sources who have remained anonymous. This is the side of the story you won't see on television. Before we dissect this jaw-dropping legal tactic, if you think justice might finally be coming for the original three wives, and you want to see every surprising twist and turn of this unprecedented fight, do me a favor, smash that like button now. To understand the scope of this rumored lawsuit, we need to look back not only at that mission statement, but at the messy destruction of the Brown family that we witnessed play out on our screens. We all witnessed Christine loading boxes, that smug grin splitting her face as she finally prioritized herself. We saw Janelle practical, steady, the family rock reach her breaking point, yelling, "I am done," in hot confrontation. And we watched Meri, faithful to a fault for decades, finally acknowledge the man she wed was no longer her husband in any meaningful definition of the term. At face value, these appeared to be individual exits. 3 different women making 3 different decisions at 3 different times. That is the narrative TLC presented to us. That is the narrative Kody and Robyn continue to promote, the saga of bitter, jealous, unfaithful wives who allegedly couldn't get the big picture and left the family they vowed to protect. But off camera, another story was emerging. Or sources indicate that as the public breakups were happening, a calm and surprising line of communication was established. Not between the wives and Kody, but between Christine, Janelle, and Meri themselves. For years, these women had been rivals, sister wives navigating a harsh and often painful dynamic, competing for resources, for affection, and for whatever scraps of Kody's attention they could get. But with Kody and his legal wife Robyn isolated in their million-dollar mansion, the 3 original wives suddenly faced a new reality. They weren't sister wives anymore. They were survivors. The first calls, we're told, were cautious. Christine, living in Utah, supposedly called out to Janelle with a straightforward check. "Up, how are you doing?" The conversation, however, became serious in short order. Janelle, pragmatic as always, was facing a scary monetary future. All the money she had made went into the family pool. A shadowy notion she was now coming to understand had 0 actual legal safeguards. Her name wasn't on the Coyote Pass deeds in a way that safeguarded her investments. The 5th-wheel trailer was her only true asset, a painful reminder of her precarious position after 3 decades of contributions. Then there was the call to Meri. This, insiders say, was the toughest of all. The schism between Meri and the rest, particularly Janelle, was deep-seated. But Christine, with her newfound freedom, is said to have facilitated the reconciliation. Their conversation wasn't about revisiting old wounds. It was about confronting a common injustice today. Meri, of course, had been the initial wife, the one who contributed to building everything from scratch. She had invested profits from her bed and breakfast and her lucrative LuLaRoe entrepreneurial venture into the family coffers, adhering to the "what is mine is ours" model. Yet, as with the others, she was coming to understand that she had been left behind emotionally and potentially financially. They compared notes together. The little betrayals, the outright slights. They exchanged stories about talking with Kody, his gaslighting, his ever-present deflections, his staple, "what did I do?" question. They discussed Robyn, her manipulations. her stranglehold on Kody's time, and the manner in which family resources somehow seemed to flow into the house on the hill. And as these discussions went on, one thought-provoking realization came into focus. This was not merely about emotional divorces. They started to suspect something far more sinister, that this wasn't merely failed marriages, but a deliberate long con. A methodical, years-long draining of money, assets, and influence from the group to one legally ensconced entity, Kody and Robyn Brown. The pain was clear. The rage was palpable. But out of that rage emerged something different. Resolved, they began to realize that they were not three broken-down women who had been subjected to shattered marriages, but rather three businesswomen thrust out of their own company, and in a clandestine agreement that would establish the basis for a full-fledged legal battle. They swore they would not go quietly into the night. This tempest hadn't cropped up overnight. It had been simmering for 10 years, and for the first time ever, Christine, Janelle, and Meri were ready to confront it together. But a secret alliance is one thing. A successful legal strategy is another. The initial three wives were aware that feelings and personal stories won't suffice in court. The family's money was tied up intentionally, they assumed. Kody's name was on nearly everything. Robyn's name was on the most valuable things, and their own names. Those were associated with most memories and broken promises. Christine, having already made her own way out, had representation. But this wasn't simply about one wife exiting. This was about tearing apart the entire financial structure of the Brown family. It was Janelle, ever the cool tactician, who rose to the task of finding the perfect legal team, according to our sources. She wasn't in the market for just another divorce attorney. She was on the hunt for a shark, a money litigator who could pierce through family mayhem and get to the chilly hard facts below. Their search reportedly led them to a powerhouse law firm in Scottsdale, Arizona, a state notorious for its complicated community property laws. At the helm was a lawyer we'll call Eleanor Vance. Legal analysts who followed her career describe her as a legend in high-asset dissolution cases, renowned for her obsessive preparation, razor-sharp presence in the courtroom, and uncanny ability to uncover leverage where none seems to exist. That initial meeting, insiders tell us, was an endurance test. Christine, Janelle, and Meri unloaded 3 decades of their existence on the table. They laid out the family pot where all earnings went into a joint account Kody oversaw as the head of the household. They explained the Las Vegas period, 4 homes in a cul-de-sac, and then the move to Flagstaff, where the 4 homes on Coyote Pass dream bit the dust, and Kody and Robyn moved into their compound. They deposited what little they had, ancient bank records, tax returns they'd somehow copied, and most valuable of all, hours and hours of footage from their own reality series. Vance and her colleagues listened. They heard the hurt feelings, but they were not there for sorrow. They were on the lookout for something more keen, a legal in. And the issue was blindingly obvious. Christine and Janelle had never been anything more than spiritual wives. Meri had formally divorced Kody in 2014. In the eyes of the courts, they were no more than long-term renters or less, legal strangers. Kody's defense essentially wrote itself. They were never my legal wives. I owed them nothing. They could leave whenever they pleased. It seemed like an open and shut case, Ted heavily in Kody and Robyn's favor, until something strange occurred. One of Vance's junior associates, sorting through reams of show footage, picked up on a clip from season 6. It was the family mission statement episode. Initially, it was trivial, an offbeat moment of bonding. But when Vance herself looked at it, something snapped. She watched it repeatedly. She watched Kody proudly orchestrating its making. She watched every grown-up, Kody, Meri, Janelle, Christine, and Robyn, seriously signing at the bottom. She watched the carefully selected words. We are a team. We are a communicating family. We are together. We prize the individual. To the lay observer, it was a tearful family endeavor. To Eleanor Vance, it was the Rosetta Stone. This is not a poster. She supposedly instructed her team. This is an operating agreement. And with that, the case had its basis. The wives weren't seeking alimony or divorce settlements. They were seeking breach of contract and the fraudulent dissolution of a business partnership. The case, as legal experts described to us, was radical but genius. Here is how it went. For years, the Browns hadn't operated like a typical family. They had operated as an unincorporated partnership. The partners, Kody Brown, Meri Barber, Janelle Shriver, Christine Allred, and Robyn Sullivan. The business, the Brown family itself, a brand franchise through TLC book opportunities and public appearances. The contributions the wives put in their working years, funneling income into the family coffers. They contributed non-monetary contributions as well. Their children, their narratives, their emotional labor, the very material TLC was profiting from. The profit-sharing agreement, the constant on-screen assurance that resources were to be used for the benefit of the whole family. Everyone put into the pot, and the pot was expected to take care of everyone. That spoke strongly of partnership based on years of commingling finances. But alone, it could be written off as coincidence. Kody could always plead that it was nothing more than a casual family agreement. The mission statement, however, turned everything around. As Eleanor Vance would argue, the mission statement was not sentimental at all. It was the moment when this implied partnership was actually put in black and white. A signed agreement by all major partners that set out the values and working principles of their collaborative enterprise. In short, a contract words such as "we are a team" and "we are united" were not mere slogans. They were contractual language, delineating the fiduciary obligations one partner had to the others. The clause, "we value the individual," sounded like a promise assuring none of the partners' interests would be overlooked or abandoned without reasonable consideration. And signing it was a declaration that they did in fact have this shared understanding. From that moment on, any action Kody and Robyn took could be second-guessed. This was not just a husband showing favor to a wife. This was the business managing partners Kody and his legal business co-signer, Robyn, intentionally violating their fiduciary responsibilities, falsely embezzling partnership money, falsely siphoning off assets in secret, falsely acting in bad faith to drive out their partners and accumulate all for themselves. This was no longer merely a polygamous mess breakup. This was partnership fraud and the crown jewel of evidence. Kody Brown's own handiwork, the family mission statement, the contract, they all thought was forgotten. With this revolutionary theory of law in hand, Vance and her staff toiled unnoticed for months. They built mountains of evidence, cross-indexing years' worth of financials with footage from sister wives. Each vacation, each purchase of a home, each on-camera discussion about money, all of it became possible proof of a long-term business arrangement. As reported by court dockets our sources allegedly perused, the filing wasn't a typical divorce case. It was a multi-count civil case in the Superior Court of Arizona, Coconino County. Plaintiffs Christine Allred, Janelle Shriver, and Meri Barber defendants, Kody Brown, Robyn Brown, and most importantly their jointly owned LLC Dabzark Entertainment. Adding Dabzark was the key action to veteran viewers. The name is well known, an acronym constructed from Dayton, Aurora, Brianna, Solomon, Ariella, Robyn, and Kody. It was the business entity Kody and Robyn had created to manage show revenues. Vance's group contended this was the primary vehicle they employed to channel and redirect money that should have been part of the family partnership. The suit, insiders say, presented a damning chronology: the initial pooling of funds in Lehi, Utah, the mutual financial sacrifices involved in the Vegas relocation and acquisition of 4 cul-de-sac houses, and then Flagstaff identified as the tipping point, the start of what the plaintiffs now refer to as the fraud. The lawsuit claimed that proceeds from the sale of the Las Vegas houses, funds that were supposed to be split down the middle or deposited into trust for the long-awaited Coyote Pass construction, were instead utilized disproportionately to pay for the expansive mansion for Kody and Robyn. Janelle lived in an RV and Christine in a rental, while Kody and Robyn lived in luxury supported by funds belonging to all. At the center of the complaint were a number of incendiary counts breach of implied agreement of partnership. The core complaint, using the mission statement as written evidence of partnership terms, and alleging that Kody and Robyn breached their duty of care and loyalty, fraudulent misrepresentation, for claiming repeatedly to the wives that their investments were secure and linked to Coyote Pass, while in reality bankrolling their own assets. Unjust enrichment, alleging Kody and Robyn were enriched at the expense of the other 3, profiting from their labor and money to buy assets they owned solely. Request for accounting and dissolution, asking for a complete forensic accounting of every dollar ever put into the family pot, and a formal dissolution of the partnership with equitable distribution of assets, including units of Coyote Pass and Kody and Robyn's house. Punitive damages, pursuing damages for years of bad faith, lies, and emotional distress. The day the lawsuit was served was, by every account, a reckoning. A process server, according to reports, showed up at the Browns' Flagstaff compound. Descriptions of the scene are pure chaos. Kody was served first. His expression changed from confusion to rage as he read through the documents. In his mind, he was the victim. The one left behind. Robyn's response, sources assert, was quite different: tearful panic. Robyn's eyes had scrolled over the pages, and there it was, her name, her children's names, tied together in the DABSARC acronym, now nestled in black and white legal verbiage charging them with fraud. The cocoon she had worked years to create around her marriage and her little children had been shattered in an instant. The lawsuit shocked waves not only through the close-knit universe of plural marriage, but throughout the broader world of reality television. Nothing like it had ever occurred before. Sister wives had quit before, but no sister wife had ever ventured to legally deconstruct the very financial and structural basis of a polygamous household. Kody and Robyn responded instantly. Their initial call, naturally, was to TLC's legal department, who were apparently appalled. After all, their meticulously edited reality show had suddenly been turned into an evidence room in a high-damage civil proceeding. Their next step was to hire an attorney. But unlike the strategic selection made by Christine, Janelle, and Meri, Kody and Robyn's choice was glaringly different. They hired a vociferous Flagstaff attorney, not exactly noted for legal acumen but rather for vocal bluster. The first public utterance, leaked to newspapers, was straight: "Kody, speak. This is a frivolous, vindictive lawsuit brought by jilted exes seeking a payoff. Kody Brown has been extremely generous to these women over the years, and we eagerly anticipate vindicating his good name in court." But behind the bravado, panic was setting in. Because this lawsuit wasn't just about money, it was about discovery. The legal representatives of the wives now possessed subpoena authority. They could require every bank statement, every text message, every email, every clandestine LLC filing. Suddenly, there was no place left to hide for Kody and Robyn. The well-groomed image of the family father and his loyal wife was about to be torn to shreds, and they both felt it. The shock wave had struck, but the tsunami was on its way. In cases of this magnitude, the ugliest fights seldom occur in the public forum of the courtroom. They occur in discovery, that period where both sides are required to share with each other every piece of pertinent evidence. It is meant to avert trial by ambush, but in practice, it is frequently the setting where the nastiest skeletons tumble out of the closet. And for Kody and Robyn Brown, discovery was, insiders say, a nightmare. Eleanor Vance and her crew unleashed a tempest of subpoenas and inquiries. They didn't merely seek the fundamentals. They dug deep: 30 years of financial documents, TLC contracts, email chains with producers, personal texts, records for each business entity Kody and Robyn had ever registered. Kody's attorney pushed back, filing motions to quash, contending the requests were overbroad, intrusive, and a fishing expedition. But the judge was not swayed. With a decades-long claim of an implied partnership, the court determined the wives' requests not only reasonable but necessary. Kody and Robyn were instructed to cooperate in full, and then the floodgates opened. Dozens of bankers' boxes were delivered to Vance's office. Inside, a paper trail even more incriminating than the wives could have dreamed. The bank records were first. Forensic accountants tracked the money flowing into the so-called family pot, the account into which all four wives had been putting their earnings for years. But in 2014 and 2015, just about when Meri did the legal divorce from Kody, and Robyn did do the legal marriage to him, the money started going the other way. New accounts were set up initially. Small sums of TLC money were diverted. Subsequently, bigger sums. Each misdirection went into accounts that were held solely by Kody and Robyn. The forensic team made a horrifically straightforward flowchart. 5 adults deposit, but only 2 always got to enjoy the rewards. The checks showed extravagance. The other wives were unaware of upscale shopping expeditions for Robyn, costly vacations taken with Kody that were never featured on the show, and tens of thousands invested in personal memorabilia kept at their house. But the biggest shocker was finding out about a secret LLC. Everyone already had knowledge of DABSARC Entertainment, but through public disclosures, Vance's group discovered another company, Patriarch Properties LLC, listed only in Kody and Robyn's names in 2018. Shortly after the Flagstaff move, this entity, they discovered, had been employed for a string of clandestine transactions kept secret from the other wives. Most astonishing of all, Patriarch Properties LLC had borrowed an undisclosed private loan with a portion of the Coyote Pass property as collateral. None of the other wives were aware of it. None of them had approved of it. And the money. They didn't go into Coyote Pass development. They went into a luxury car down payment and into settling some of Robyn's outstanding personal loans. For the wives' lawyers, this was straightforward, fraudulent conversion of partnership property. The emails and text messages proved to be the most personally devastating finds. The lawyers weren't pursuing emotional drama, but evidence of intent, and there was plenty to be found. Among the evidence were emails between Kody and Robyn, in which the other wives were reduced to financial jargon. They were referred to as assets, and in one especially biting email from Kody as underperforming units of the company. There were also discussions about how to manage Janelle's constant money questions and how to gradually eliminate Meri's financial stake in the family. One 2019 text from Robyn allegedly read, "We have to protect our family's future, the big picture. If they're not all of them on board, we can't let them pull us and the children down." Vance's team later contended that "our family" at that point did not refer to the whole Brown family of 18 kids. It meant specifically Kody Robyn and their 5 children. In addition, emails between TLC producers spouted a different tale than that which Kody had led the wives to believe. While he protested to Janelle and Christine that the network was insisting that they proceed with Coyote Pass, the emails uncovered him intentionally dragging his feet on the project. He complained of family discord as his reason, all the while keeping his and Robyn's story in the foreground, guaranteeing their revenue stream piece by piece. The investigative process delivered Eleanor Vance an arsenal of irrefutable evidence. Bank statements revealing one-sided funding, corporate disclosures establishing the secret LLC and abuse of family trust. And lastly, the words of Kody and Robyn themselves, written in black and white, revealing their plans to deceive and accumulate the wealth. The skeletons weren't pulled out of the closet. They were drawn out and methodically arranged as exhibits for trial. But first, there is the depositions. This is where lawyers interrogate opposing sides under oath. Every utterance transcribed by a court reporter. There is no judge in attendance, but sworn testimony can be used afterward to discredit a witness if they attempt to alter their testimonies. For the OG3 wives, it was their opportunity to put truth on record. For Kody and Robyn, it was, by all means, disastrous. The depositions took days on end in a stark conference room at a neutral Flagstaff law office. Christine, Janelle, and Meri took their turns first. In a stratagem that ultimately blew up in his face, Kody's attorney decided to depose them individually, presumably expecting inconsistencies to emerge. They did not. Vance had readied them well, and they presented placid, professional, and consistent responses. Christine was said to have testified with added confidence. She defined the financial deal from her own vantage point. How, for years, she'd handed over her paychecks, believing they were for the good of the family. When Kody's attorney attempted to portray her as bitter about divorce, she calmly shot back. "My emotional leave, taking of Kody, is distinct from my business association with this family. I came for the 30 years of work and income I invested in something I was assured was a shared venture." Janelle, as usual, arrived as the numbers whiz. With spreadsheets recreated from memory, she outlined her income against expenses over decades. She explained the family pot as a real bank account with routing numbers, not some vague conception. She disassembled freeloader accusations, noting that for many years she was the sole breadwinner for the entire 18-child household. Meri's deposition had the greatest emotional impact. Kody's attorney attempted to bring up the catfishing scandal as a means of discrediting her, but Vance had prepared her well. Meri stared the attorney right in the face and explained, "Yes, I did make a deep mistake at a time of terrible loneliness. But never once did I waver from my commitment to the financial support of this family. Even after my husband informed me that he did not want me anymore, I still gave all that I had. My personal shortcomings do not negate my role as a founding partner in this household." The 3 women's narratives were in perfect harmony. Their concept of the family partnership was the same, and there were no fissures for the opposition to pursue. They stood on a solid, united basis. Robyn's testimony, sources explain, was an exercise in deflection and weeping. She relied on the same strategies she has employed on the program: tearful protests, protestations of ignorance about the money, assertions that Kody took care of it all. She portrayed herself as a victim of jealousy, but Eleanor Vance was having none of it. Polite but inexorable, she presented Robyn with bank statements indicating withdrawals for Victoria's Secret and high-end department stores. Mrs. Brown Vance asked, "When you made these purchases, did you consider this your personal money, or the partnership's money?" Through tears, Robyn replied that she believed Kody had given her an allowance. Vance next drew out still another document. This one, the incorporation documents for Dabsarch Entertainment, in which Robyn S. Brown was a managing member. Mrs. Brown Vance insisted, "You are a managing member of this LLC. Are you swearing under oath that you were ignorant of the millions of dollars going through an entity you are legally co-managing?" Robyn hesitated, claiming Kody was the person responsible for doing the paperwork end of things. But Vance wasn't finished. She turned to the text messages, reading aloud the notorious one regarding safeguarding our family's future. Mrs. Brown Vance inquired icily, "When you sent this text to Kody, what family were you referring to? The family of 23? Or the family of 7 in your house?" Robyn allegedly lost it altogether, bereft of an answer, lashing out at Vance and blaming her for bullying. The same acting that previously served her so well on Kody, and even on television, disintegrated entirely under the merciless accuracy of attorney questioning. But the pie-faced de rare facistance was Kody's deposition, the headliner. He burst in with bravado, self-righteous anger emanating from him. In his head, he was the righteous king of a kingdom wronged by ungrateful wives. And Vance, she just let him vent. She let him vent about loyalty, sacrifice, and how he single-handedly kept everything together. Each word he ranted just dug his grave deeper. When she did finally start asking questions, she arrived with an arsenal of proof. She began with the mission statement of the family. "Mr. Brown, do you know what this is?" she asked, pushing it across the table. Kody gave a cursory glance. "Yeah, that was just some project that we did for the show." "A project for the show," Vance echoed coldly. "So the language here. We are a team. We are united. Those weren't real." Backpedaling quickly, Kody shook his head. "No, of course they were sincere. It was our mission." "Good," Vance said, her voice sounding like sharpened steel. "So when you signed this document, you thought you were part of a team with Christine, Janelle, and Meri." Kody spat. "And a team pools its resources, right? Works toward a collective goal." "Yais, that is what I always wanted," he exclaimed. Then there was the next strike. Vance pushed the papers for the incorporation of Patriarch Properties LLC over to him. "Mr. Brown," she stated calmly, "can you give me the date when you notified your teammates of the creation of the company?" Kody stiffened, his eyes fixed on the sheet. He remained silent. "Can you point me to where in your correspondence you advised Christine and Janelle that you were borrowing against the partnership's biggest asset, Coyote Pass?" His face reddened. "I am the president of this family. I make the money decisions." "Ah," Vance inched forward, slicing him apart with one sentence. "So it is not a team, it is a dictatorship, and you are the dictator. Is that your testimony today?" For hours it went back and forth. Each of Kody's denials was answered with tough evidence, emails, bank statements, testimony that took down his assertions. He became agitated, befuddled, and sullen. He contradicted himself repeatedly. Sources indicate the transcript is an ugly picture. A man brought down completely by evidence. A patriarch brought low by the weight of his own hypocrisy. By the conclusion of depositions, the direction of the case was clear. The wives were legitimate, consistent, and obviously victimized partners. Robyn was revealed as either willfully blind or a willing co-conspirator, and Kody Brown, the self-proclaimed president, the king, the patriarch, was presented with being no more than a man about to be destroyed by his own dishonesty. The case was ready for trial, the lines were drawn. The proof was overwhelming. And in our next special follow-up report, we'll bring you inside the courtroom, where Kody Brown will have to face off against his own words as the family's mission statement takes center stage as the star witness against him. This is no trial. it is Judgment Day. The patriarch brought to judgment not by his carefully crafted tale, but by the same rules he once wielded to manipulate others. A confrontation so raw, so dramatic, so momentous, it trumps anything TLC cameras ever caught.